Aloha Committee. My name is Autumn Ness, clarifying that I am not here in my capacity as an aide to Member Johnson, but as a supporter of so many of my friends on the West Side. I'm not a West Side resident, but again, there's so many folks that can't be here because they're busy doing the things. So I feel compelled to just share a couple of things. Also, that this meeting should be held on the West Side. Meetings like this should all be held on the West Side, but they cannot because there are no facilities to host meetings like this, which illustrates the fact that we need to get some of our priorities straight, like quickly, that we can't continue to have these conversations if the West Side cannot be involved. Next, housing is a basic human need, period. It's up there with food and water, and this must be the first and highest priority. If it's not met, folks cannot be expected to serve guests and create this Maui no Ka'oi experience for visitors coming over here. If shelter units are not available for fire victims because they have to be made available for visitors to come here, what does that say to the people of West Maui? Especially when you know that these same hotels denied access to their ballrooms and facilities to the people of West Maui while Lahaina was burning. People asked, can we come to your ballrooms? And hotels said no. The people of Lahaina are the labor that keeps these facilities running in normal times. And when shit hit the fan, these companies denied access to safe spaces for those folks. They're now providing shelter because of the Red Cross and FEMA funds. And now the conversation is on the table that these folks that are in these shelters, the hotels, may have to be evicted to make way for more guests. And it's beyond insulting. Who will clean the toilets for those guests? Who will wait on those guests in those hotels? West Side folks who just lost their homes and their communities? The same folks that don't have room in their own community for these kind of meetings? They're going to go to a hotel with an empty ballroom and clean toilets for hotel guests? When you tell a community that there's no space to have community meetings like this, there's no homes for you, there's no place for your keiki to go to school, but plenty space to welcome visitors, and we expect you to show up and wait on them because you need the money. What does that say? So our first priority needs to be keeping folks in these nice, well cared for facilities for as long as they need to. That's a housing solution. And then long term, like Mr. Lazo was saying, I've been in meetings. The community is moving. People are building tiny homes right now faster than anybody I've ever seen before. And we're in these, they have land, they have Ohana that has a lot of land that they're opening them up. They're saying, yeah, you know what? I will allow 20 units on my Ohana's land for as long as they need because that's what we do. And the biggest question in these meetings is, how are we going to get the county to let us do this? We're going to tell the county we have 50 homes that we just built with our own sweat equity, and we've got Uncle's land over here with 20 acres. He's going to let Ohana live on there for as long as they can, but the county's going to say no. These are the meetings I'm in every day. They're never going to approve this. What, should we just go squat? We just go do it because the county's going to say no. Like the community has answers, and their biggest problem is the county's going to say no. So I'm begging of you folks, two things. One, do whatever you got to do to get the governor to not open West Maui and to reserve units in West Maui for residents. And number two, we got to do whatever we got to do. When the community comes to us, says, hey, we can house 50 families because we just built these units and we get 20 acres, our answer should be yes. How do we help you? Normal terms, we have all these rules we got to follow. You know what? How do we make this happen? Thank you.
Members, questions for a testifier? Yes, Member Hodgins.
Thank you, Chair. Hey, Autumn. Thank you for your testimony. So I'm actually glad you mentioned about the county because that's been kind of on my mind too lately. I emailed Managing Director, Public Works, Planning for clarification on the mayoral EP as a response to the disaster. So I requested clarification. I'm saying this on the record now, so hopefully I can get an answer soon because they haven't responded yet. What is the building permit process application if Chapter 16 and 19 is suspended? If a building permit is maybe not required, then to clarify, what is the process and how do we ensure that these structures that people are building are safe for habitation? What happens when the EP is rescinded to these structures? How do we ensure that if they want to build anything on the property going forward, that they're allowed to, considering right now they can? And for tax reasons, for, financial reasons, what does that look like for the people who want to build going forward? So thank you for asking those questions. And I too would like to know how this is going to work within our county, considering Chapter 19 and 16 are suspended. So hopefully when I get answers, I can provide some clarification for you and then we can get that message out. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hodgins, for that. Seeing no other questions from members? Yes. Member Sugimura?
Thank you. Nice seeing you, Autumn. So I'm concerned about you mentioning hotels who refuse people who are trying to find shelter. And could you tell us what hotels they were?
I don't want to misspeak on the record, so I can't say the name, but I was in the room the night of the fires when there were conversations about how to get folks that were stranded over there out of the west side. These are people that were had been pulled from the water, were burned, and there were conversations, high-level conversations, including with the EOC and the visitor industry. Can we put them in the ballrooms? And the answer was no. And that's why they were put on buses like cattle and made to come around the backside with all the other shit show of traffic. I was at War Memorial when those buses were unloading. People were in shock. Some of them were wet. And I was in the room when they said, can we send them to the ballrooms? And the answer was no.
So you're saying the EOC said that then?
I don't want to use names right now because it was so hectic that night. I just know that I was in conversations between the EOC and everybody else, and that was the answer coming over the radio.
Okay,
So
EOC.
I want to investigate that.
Thank you. Any other question for our testifier? Seeing none. Thank you so very much, Autumn.